Do you know what truly haunts the human soul? It is not death. It is not failure. It is the quiet death that occurs every day you try to be liked. There is a shadow hidden in every person, the repressed, the denied, the unacceptable. And when you trade authenticity for approval, you hand over your soul to the collective lie. You shrink. You smile. You nod. But inside, something sacred begins to rot. This is the tyranny of being liked. It is the silent war that men and women wage against themselves for the illusion of peace. In my studies, I saw it again and again. People who wore masks so long they forgot the shape of their own faces. They sought to please, to fit, to belong. They sacrificed their wildness at the altar of social acceptance. But the price is too high. For what is left of a person who is always digestible, always agreeable, always safe? A ghost in a well-ironed suit, a caged soul with a painted smile. We live in a time where to offend is to be feared, where to assert is to be labeled, where to disagree is to be dangerous. But the psyche, the true self, was not born to be tame. It was born to be whole. And wholeness includes your darkness, your anger, your hunger, your limits, your sharp truths that may burn others, but illuminate your path. You think you want to be loved, but what you crave is respect. And respect is not given to the agreeable. It is given to those who carry themselves like storms, unapologetic, grounded in their truth, dangerous not because they harm, but because they cannot be controlled. Respect is born the moment you stop asking for it. It arrives when you stop negotiating your worth in the marketplace of approval. It is the natural byproduct of a person who knows who they are and refuses to apologize for it. Do not aim to be liked. Liking is fickle. It is shallow. It is based on performance. It is a currency that inflates and collapses based on who's watching. But respect, it runs deeper. It is carved into the bones of your being. It is earned in silence, when no one sees the battles you've fought simply to remain true to yourself. The dark power of respect is not loud. It does not beg. It does not seek validation. It speaks without needing to shout. It walks into rooms and shifts the atmosphere. It makes others question, not because you impose, but because you embody. You become the mirror that reflects their own cowardice, their own compromises, their own lies, and they will hate you for it. Or they will admire you, but they will not ignore you. You were not made to be liked. You were made to be whole. You were made to walk with the weight of your soul intact, even if that means walking alone. So I ask you now, will you continue to trade your essence for affection, your truth for approval? Or will you walk into the wilderness of your own authenticity and finally be respected? From early childhood, we are conditioned to seek approval, first from our parents, then teachers, friends, and eventually society. We are rewarded for good behavior, punished for defiance, and slowly trained to equate external validation with personal worth. This conditioning is subtle but powerful. It shapes how we speak, dress, think, and even feel. Over time, we stop asking, "What do I want?" and begin to ask, "What will they think of me?" Carl Jung warned of this trap, the danger of living through the persona, the social mask we wear to adapt to collective norms. The persona is necessary to function in society, but when it becomes your identity, it strangles the self. You become hollow. You perform, you appease, you conform. But beneath the mask, something vital begins to die. Your authenticity. The tyranny of approval is seductive because it feels like love. But it isn't. Approval is transactional. It is offered when you behave in ways that make others comfortable. It demands compromise. You soften your edges, dilute your opinions, censor your voice. You start measuring your value by how many people smile at you, praise you, follow you, agree with you. And slowly you become addicted to the safety of being liked. But safety is not freedom. This constant performance creates a split in the psyche. The parts of you that don't fit the mold, the anger, the ambition, the sexuality, the wildness, the pain, are exiled into the unconscious. Jung called this the shadow, and the more you chase approval, the larger your shadow becomes. You begin to feel anxious, resentful, exhausted. You don't know why. It's because you're at war with yourself. Pleasing others becomes your prison. You say yes when you mean no. You laugh when you're offended. You stay silent when your soul screams. You fear being disliked more than being disrespected. And in doing so, you teach others to value your image, but never your essence. They like the mask, not the person behind it. Eventually, your life becomes a curated lie. You surround yourself with people who reflect your false self. You pursue careers, relationships, and dreams that are not truly yours. You lose the ability to hear your own inner voice because it has been drowned out by the applause of the crowd. Niceness is not kindness. Niceness is not goodness. Niceness is submission wrapped in politeness. It is the socially accepted costume of obedience, and when worn too tightly, it suffocates the soul. The world praises those who are nice, those who agree, smile, and conform. But beneath the surface of that praise lies an unspoken truth. Nice people are easy to control. Carl Jung understood this danger deeply. He spoke of the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that contains everything we deny in ourselves, our rage, ambition, defiance, sexuality, and even our capacity for power. When we choose to be nice at the expense of being real, we suppress these vital parts of who we are. We deny our own complexity for the comfort of others. This is not virtue. This is fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. Niceness is a learned behavior. It is born from a child's early realization that being pleasant and agreeable earns praise and love, while expressing anger or disagreement leads to punishment or abandonment. So we adapt, we repress. We become likable instead of truthful, and what begins as survival becomes identity. But every time you swallow your truth to protect someone else's comfort, you abandon yourself. Every time you soften your words to avoid confrontation, you lose a piece of your spine. And the world doesn't reward that kind of sacrifice, it exploits it. You become the one who is overlooked, taken for granted, passed over, ignored, because people do not respect those who constantly yield. They may like you, but they do not fear disappointing you. And respect without consequence is just indulgence. To be perpetually nice is to disown your own power. The shadow festers in silence. The anger you never express doesn't vanish. It corrodes you from within. The boundaries you never enforce invite violation. And the more agreeable you become, the more invisible you feel. Jung believed that what you do not make conscious will rule your life, and you will call it fate. In this case, your niceness becomes the very reason for your suffering, and yet you defend it as virtue. There is a part of you that is not polite, not tame, not nice, and it is not your enemy. It is your strength. It is the source of your discernment, your limits, your capacity to say no, to draw the line, to stand alone if needed. But that part cannot be accessed if your highest goal is to be liked. Niceness censors the soul. It edits your expression to be more palatable, and in doing so, it turns your life into a series of performances rather than acts of truth. Acceptance is seductive. It whispers promises of belonging, of safety, of peace, but often it is purchased at the cost of your integrity. The desire to be accepted by others is one of the most powerful instincts in the human psyche. It is ancient, rooted in our evolutionary need to stay within the tribe. To be cast out once meant death, and so the modern self still fears rejection, as though it were annihilation. But Carl Jung warned that wholeness is not found through acceptance by others, but through acceptance of the self, the total self, light and dark. To be truly whole, one must integrate the parts that the world asks us to hide. This is not self-improvement. It is not polishing the ego to become more likable. It is the opposite. It is the confrontation with the shadow, the acceptance of your flaws, your contradictions, your hidden hunger for power, your suppressed rage, your unmet needs. Acceptance from others often depends on your willingness to fragment yourself. They will like the version of you that mirrors their values, their comfort zones, their egos. And so you contort, you shrink, you omit. You become likable, but only as a filtered version. That is not love. That is performance. And worse, it is betrayal. Not of them, but of yourself. Respect, on the other hand, requires wholeness. It requires a confrontation with the self. It cannot be faked. It cannot be begged for. It arises when a person embodies their truth so fully that they become immovable. You might not be liked for it, but you are seen. Not through the lens of comfort, but through the weight of presence. Respect is earned by those who are unafraid to be disliked in order to be real. The integrated self does not ask, will they approve? It asks, is this true for me? That question is dangerous. It forces you to separate from the crowd. It calls you to face solitude. But in that solitude, something ancient awakens, the inner authority that cannot be given or taken by others. This is the path Jung called individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, beyond the roles, beyond the masks, beyond the need to be accepted. Integration does not mean indulgence in your darkness, nor denial of your light. It means holding both with awareness. It means saying no without guilt, setting boundaries without apology, speaking truth without flattery. And this level of clarity unnerves people. It exposes their own fragmentation. It forces them to confront their own unintegrated selves. The world is filled with people who are accepted but not respected, liked but not trusted, agreeable but not influential. They live lives of quiet suffocation, surrounded by shallow harmony, haunted by the parts of themselves they buried for love that was never real. Agreeableness is often praised as a virtue. It is associated with being cooperative, polite, easy to work with. But beneath this social virtue lies a psychological danger. When agreeableness becomes a lifestyle, it slowly erodes the core of your personal authority. You become someone others tolerate, not someone they follow. You earn smiles but never command silence. And slowly, invisibly, you lose your power. Carl Jung understood that to become whole, to become real, you must pass through the fire of conflict, not just with the world, but within yourself. The agreeable person avoids that fire. They dodge disagreement, abandon confrontation, and suppress their true thoughts to maintain peace. But peace without truth is just submission. You cannot develop authority in a life where you never say no. You cannot develop presence in a life where you constantly fold. The cost of being agreeable is high. You trade your inner voice for outer harmony. But the soul was not built for obedience. It was built for freedom. And freedom requires friction. Rebellion in its truest form is not recklessness. It is clarity. It is the refusal to betray your inner truth for the sake of group comfort. It is standing still when the crowd moves. It is speaking when silence is expected. It is being willing to lose approval to protect your integrity. And in that stance, authority is born. Not authority over others, but authority over yourself. The agreeable person lives in reaction. They shape themselves according to the expectations of others. But the rebellious soul lives from intention. They are not careless. They are conscious. They choose what to stand for and what to reject. They disturb the waters, not because they want chaos, but because stillness built on lies is not peace. It is paralysis. People sense this difference. They feel when someone is playing a role, and they feel when someone is real. The agreeable are liked because they are predictable. But true leaders, true forces of influence, are respected because they do not bend for convenience. They unsettle. They provoke. They demand something higher, not just from others, but from themselves. Jung knew that individuation, the path to the full self, cannot happen in obedience. It requires breaking away from inherited beliefs, from cultural expectations, from familial roles. This is the rebellion of the soul, and it is painful. You will lose things. You will lose people. You will lose the comfort of belonging. But what you gain is something rarer, an unshakable center. This kind of authority cannot be taught. It emerges when you survive the loneliness of nonconformity. It grows when you make peace with being misunderstood. It crystallizes when you trust your inner compass more than the shifting winds of collective opinion. The agreeable mind seeks to be accepted. The authoritative mind seeks to be aligned. One serves the crowd, the other serves the self, and that difference determines whether you move through life as a shadow of what you could be, or as the architect of something no one else has the power to define. The persona is not the enemy. It is the mask we wear to navigate society, a necessary construct to function in the world of roles, expectations, and appearances. Carl Jung described it as the social face we present to others, shaped by culture, upbringing, and the desire to belong. But what begins as adaptation can become a prison. Over time, the mask fuses to the skin, and we forget it was ever a mask at all. You become the role, the good son, the obedient daughter, the agreeable partner, the model employee. You speak in tones that don't shake the room. You laugh on cue. You say the right things at the right time to the right people. And everyone nods. Everyone approves. But inside, there is a growing emptiness, a silent scream buried beneath layers of performance. The true self lives beneath the persona. It is wild, contradictory, unpredictable, alive. It does not care for approval. It seeks meaning. It craves truth. It carries instincts, wounds, desires, and a voice that has been silenced for so long, it now whispers from the depths of the unconscious. But the longer you wear the mask, the more distant that voice becomes. Until one day you look in the mirror and see a reflection that feels hollow, rehearsed, artificial. Power does not live in the mask. The mask is maintained through fear, fear of being disliked, rejected, misunderstood. But authentic power begins where fear ends. It arises when you dare to remove the persona and reveal what lies underneath, even if it is raw, imperfect, or unfamiliar. This act of self-revelation is not weakness. It is the beginning of wholeness. The process is violent in its own way. When you peel away the mask, you also strip away everything that made you feel accepted. Relationships shift. Social circles dissolve. You may find that the world preferred the illusion of you, not the reality. But what remains is something infinitely more valuable, your own authority. Jung believed that individuation, the journey toward becoming a whole and integrated self, required a confrontation with the persona. You must ask, whose approval am I serving? Whose values am I living by? Who am I when no one is watching? These questions are dangerous because they dissolve illusions. They force you to confront the ways in which you've betrayed yourself for comfort. The world does not need more polished, palatable personalities. It needs individuals who have walked through their own darkness, faced their fragmentation, and emerged with nothing to prove. When you no longer need to be liked, you become magnetic. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. The integrated self does not beg for validation. It commands respect simply by existing in truth. This is a quiet power. It doesn't dominate. It doesn't chase. It stands. It speaks only when there is something worth saying. It refuses to wear a mask to earn what it already deserves. Its place in the world, unedited, unfiltered, unapologetic.